The first quarter looked like it was going to be a concern. No, Oregon's run defense is not a problem.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks. Dante Moore and the backup quarterback situation. Some thoughts there because Austin Novosad still isn't around. The young running backs, Dan Lanning question, all in today's show, which is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. So the first quarter was not the best display for Oregon's defensive line. I saw it during the game. You saw it during the game. Couple of things here that are really important to note. And I highlighted them going into this game, but then in the moment, I think it could be really easy to forget about this. Number one, this game kicked off at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Number two, they were playing in a glorified high school stadium of sorts that honestly I thought had a beautiful visual. I'm a sucker for water. Like, I love those sorts of visuals. I've got art in my apartment, and a lot of it is water centric because that has a lot of my favorite places to go in the world have that. So I thought that actually looked really cool. However, when you're used to playing at Austin Stadium, or last year they went to the Big House against Michigan, or when you go to Husky Stadium, you get a great environment, like Wisconsin last year. When you go from that to playing in a small, condensed, I think the attendance was like 12 to 15,000 or so. It doesn't feel the same. You combine that with an early kickoff, and yeah, this was always kind of an inevitable result that Oregon wouldn't get off to the greatest start. And then you couple that with Northwestern having the appropriate game plan that I fully expected them to have, and Dan Lanning talked about it after the game, that they were trying to chew the clock, and they just wore down the play clock on every single play. And yeah, a couple of moments, Oregon wasn't perfect. No defense is perfect on every single play, by the way. A couple of moments, Oregon's defense wasn't perfect, and that allowed several more minutes to come off the clock. And Oregon only had a 17-0 lead at the half. Because here's the other thing about the run defense. Oregon gave up, if you just look at the box score, 178 yards on the ground. Yeah, that sounds bad. That sounds really, really bad. Well, 79 of them came against the reserves. Oregon's starting defense still has not allowed a touchdown this year, number one. And number two, it's not as if Northwestern was gashing Oregon for 10 to 15-yard chunk plays a la Penn State in the Big Ten championship game last year. That's not what this was. They stayed ahead of the chains. They stayed on schedule. They had a couple of good play calls. And you know what? I think David Braun is actually a pretty good head coach. He was doing everything he could based on his body language on the sideline. He wasn't mailing it in for this game. They had way more to play for than Oregon did. And they look like the more motivated, more ready-to-go football team. And yet, Oregon held a 34-0 lead. And at one point, Oregon had allowed, I think in the third quarter, is 85 rushing yards total. Against a team like Northwestern, yeah, that's good enough. Was it a great start? No, it wasn't. But guess what? It wasn't so bad that Northwestern was actually able to go up and down the field and score points. In a couple of spots, yeah, it wasn't great. But then, so this is something else that we've talked about a lot with regards to the defense and Tosh Lupoy's defense coordinator. What did they do as the game went on? They made adjustments. They got better. And their pass defense didn't need any adjustments. Those guys were ready to go from the jump. They had 2 picks in the first half. So I don't look at Oregon's defense after that game and say the run defense is just in some horrible spot and we're going back to 2022 against Oregon State. No, I don't feel that way whatsoever. There were a couple of moments, and I said in my reaction show, yeah, Oregon played like a B- game here. They weren't perfect in all these different spots, and should we have expected them to be? I didn't predict them to score as many points as I did in either of the first 2 games. Or that's not true. That's not true. Montana State, they outperformed my expectations, but I thought they'd score more points against Oklahoma State. Like, I just looked at what this game was and how it actually played out, And you also got to understand, like, this is a 4-quarter game. So, yeah, the first quarter wasn't that great. Do they make adjustments? Do you think Oregon's going to play perfect quarters all the time? They did that against Montana State and Oklahoma State. It was never going to be that way over the course of the entire year. So I was actually encouraged that, hey, this doesn't look exactly how it should. I mean, sure, they're not allowing literally any points, but, man, Northwestern picked up a couple of third downs, and, boy, Northwestern is having a little bit of success running the football here, and then they didn't allow any points. So, no, I don't think Oregon's run defense is a problem. Quite frankly, for the entire game, I think the rushing attack for Oregon is deserving of more criticism, which isn't to say I feel horrible about it. But Jayden Lamar, for the entire game, didn't have anywhere to go. I think he had one carry that was over 8 yards. His long run was 12, and he had to break 2 or 3 tackles on that play. He had 11 carries for 38 yards, and De'Aaron Hill hit the big one on a phenomenally blocked play. Gosh, the perimeter blocking just continues to be really, really good. But I think it is far more fair after that game to be concerned about Oregon's rushing offense than their rushing defense. Because the rushing defense actually made adjustments after not getting off to a great start. Nothing offensively got off to a great start. Oregon punted on their first drive. I didn't see that one coming. Credits Northwestern. David Braun's a good defensive head coach. I was really impressed. They looked like they were big. They were fast, flying around. And it took Oregon a little while to wake up. But they didn't allow any points in that time. These are first world problems. As I often mention, Oregon actually has on the football field, or in recruiting as well. Oregon's got first world problems. They don't have major structural problems at this point in time. So I look at how this game played out and think, yeah, Oregon didn't play great. They were up 34-0. Then they pulled their starters, and Northwestern went up 14-3. I saw some of you down in the YouTube comments saying, man, I can't believe they didn't finish well. Yeah, I don't think Dan Lanning was that happy about it either. But guess what? It was a business trip, just like he said going into the game. Get in, get your win, get out. You showed plenty of stuff. You continued to work and progress and do some really good things offensively. And it wasn't a perfect game. You got the win. You got out with no major injuries. Overall, really good day. This led to my favorite question that I got in this vein from Paul. He said, howdy, Spencer. I watch Locked on Ducks daily. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate all my everydayers out there. I know there are a lot of people annoyed with the Duck performance against Northwestern. I, for one, am not. It would be nice if opposing teams also put in their second string when we do. Good point. Dan has to preserve the health of his players. Yes, I have faith that Dan and his staff will address any shortcomings they see. No hot takes from me. I take it all one game at a time until we meet again. Yeah, you summed up my thoughts really, really well there, Paul. Give me a... You know what? That might be... If I turn that into an SSA, which I'm going to, because, this is my show of sorts. I'm kidding. It's your show. I'm just here to do the show for you. But I am the executive producer. So I'm going to turn that into a Spencer scale of agreement. That's a 10. That's a 10. I feel good about how Oregon played. They played well. They did not play perfectly. They had a big lead. No major injuries. Dante Moore keeps looking awesome. I mean, really awesome. I want to know your thoughts. Drop them in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter. All of that good stuff. Dante Moore, man, what do you not like about this guy right now? First, this episode brought to you by 5-Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What you're going to love most about them is how portable they are. They could fit in your pocket, for goodness sake. They could fit in any sort of bag. You could just have them in your hand. You might be able to stuff one of your wallet if you have a big enough wallet. You can take it anywhere, get that boost whenever you need it. Maybe it's on the golf course, maybe it's doing a workout, maybe it's studying, whatever it may be. 5-Hour Energy is here to help get you through your day. If you're making the turn after 9 holes and you're starting to feel a little down, boom. 5-Hour Energy is there to give you that sort of pick-me-up. Enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in-store and online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon today. Check them out at 5hourenergy.com. I love second segment sips. Always gives me a nice little refresher starting point for the second segment. I love watching Dante Moore right now. This guy, like, wild career trajectory. The Kenny Dillingham departure, the flip to UCLA, and then his decision to come to Oregon is just looking better and better by the week. And like everybody else on this Oregon team and the team as a whole, you reserve full judgment, and I am as well, until you see what he does against Penn State. But through the first 3 games, it's pretty hard to argue with what he has done. There was a great calculation that got made. I want to give her due credit. It was Brenna Green, who covers the Ducks for somebody, but tweeted out this stat. So far this year, Dante Moore played 2.5 quarters against Montana State and Oklahoma State, and 3 quarters against Northwestern, which boils down to 8 quarters or 2 games. So over 2 games, he's 50 of 64 for 657 yards, 7 touchdowns, and a pick. 50 of 64, that is a 78% completion percentage. This guy keeps impressing week after week. And I want to start with this question from Rick, because the only thing he did wrong was throw his first interception against Northwestern. Curious your thoughts on Lanning's decision to pull Dante out of the game after the interception. I think he should have let him play one more series to get a little confidence back so he's not thinking about that interception all week. So that ball was definitely hit by the wind. The kicks, shout out special teams this week. Again, clean slate for special teams, no major mistakes, which is kind of, special teams are like red pen on a test. If you're not seeing it or thinking about it a lot, that means things are usually going pretty well. So Dante Moore was throwing that ball to DeCorian Moore. It was a shot play against cover 2, and the linebacker underneath that's dropping deep was able to get to that ball because it was wobbling and it was into the wind. And I was wondering when I first saw it, like, man, why'd that ball come out? Every other throw from Dante Moore is this beautiful tight spiral. His arm strength is crazy good. The accuracy, the ball placement, and then all of a sudden he underthrew DeCorian Moore by, 4 or 5 yards and didn't give him a chance, and it looked ugly in the air. Wasn't deflected. He's not hurt. He was thrown into a really big win. All right, let's just chalk it up to that. That's about the only thing he did wrong on Saturday. And is that really on him? I mean, partially, sure. But, this is at the end of the game. Oregon, I think, had just gotten the ball back via turnover. And I love watching Dante Moore throw the ball right now. And coming into this year, for those who had questions about Dante Moore, I certainly did. I think it was reasonable that a lot of outside people from that are not super close to Oregon did as well, because you don't know. And you saw him as a true freshman. Yep, didn't look very good. Turned the ball over too much. Each week, he continues to show all the Oregon fans out there why he deserves to be the guy and why he deserves Oregon fans' trust collectively. Because the poise and the play between the ears really was the only question. It's not like he went to UCLA and it looked like, he actually doesn't have as good of an arm as the scouting community said, or boy, he doesn't move incredibly well, or boy, I don't know, maybe he was a little bit overrated, still good, but not great. No, the physical traits never went away. They were always there. They haven't gone anywhere. They're just being put on full display, and he didn't have it between the ears as a true freshman. Most quarterbacks don't. Well, kind of looks like he does now. The pocket presence he is showing every week is exquisitely good. And against Northwestern in particular, it was phenomenal. The way he is sensing pressure and getting away from it, showcasing that athleticism that, he mentioned during the offseason, he's topping out at 21.5 miles an hour, which is really fast for a quarterback. He looks like he has more than enough athleticism to do anything and everything. And he's using it the way that I talked about, which is, I don't think he's going to be a primary running sort of guy where he has 10 to 15 carries every game. But I think you're going to see him run to extend plays, and he's done that so well. And in this Northwestern game, there were more examples, frankly, than I can remember, where he's going outside the pocket, he's throwing on the move, and he throws the ball so accurately. There was a play to DeCorian Moore, the throw to Malik Benson. I'm going to talk about that more in a sec. There was one where the offensive line kind of got pushed back in a way, but turned all their guys upfield, and he stepped up into the pocket and made a good throw. And he just looks like a veteran. He looks like he is calm, cool, composed, collected. He's not making mistakes. He's making good reads. He's getting through progressions. This was a really, really good showing. And again, as I always say, stats are a starting point, not an end point. He was 16 of 20, 178 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. He played so much better than those numbers indicate. It's just that Oregon didn't need a whole heck of a lot because the defense was giving him some short fields, and the running game came alive a bit in the second half. Like, he's just doing a lot of things well. Oregon was good situationally in this game again, 7 of 11 on third down. And because they didn't run the ball as well as I was hoping, Tulane went for 270 on the ground against this Northwestern team. Yeah, I was hoping for more than what Oregon put up as a team, which was 176, 66 of which came on De'Aaron Hill's long touchdown run. That guy's awesome. But man, Dante Moore just looks like he is comfortable, like he is poised. He's making the right reads. He's doing all the things that, we wondered before the year. Is he going to be able to showcase those traits? Because he didn't do it at UCLA. Well, through 3 games, he is. It's only 3 games. Oregon's been at least a 27.5-point favorite in all those games. Penn State will be the ultimate test. But so far, he's passing with flying colors pretty easily. That throw to Malik Benson, if you watch the game and remember, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, just go to YouTube highlights and just look at the throw. That is a crazy throw. He is rolling to his right. It's a design sprint out, just pretty, basic smash concept where Casper is sitting right next to the sideline and Benson is running the corner route. And I think it's DeCorian Moore or Gary Bryant's coming across the field from the weak side. And he has such a tight window on the move to throw the ball, not just towards the sideline away from the safety that's over the top, but the defensive back that is underneath is not in a horrible position, and he makes it the easiest catch possible for Malik Benson. Like, that throw, the more I watch it, the more I realize how insanely talented Dante Moore is, and that we're seeing that through the first few games. This has been as strong of a start as you could possibly ask for. Through the 8 quarters, as I mentioned, he's averaging over 300 yards. So 2 full games, basically. He's averaging 328.5 yards passing with a 7-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio while completing 78% of his passes. Crazy how good he has been so far. But something I was wondering about, and I got a couple questions about this, was the backup quarterback situation, because Austin Novosad has not played the last couple of games. It's been Luke Moga because Novosad has been hurt. Moga only threw 2 passes in this one. We've seen him flash the athleticism this year. He was in a wildcat situation in the first quarter. That makes me happier than you could possibly know. But, Brock Thomas got a lot of reps in this game. He actually threw 4 passes, whereas Moga only threw 2. I do kind of wonder why. I'm not that Thomas hasn't earned the right to play from time to time. It's just that, I think they feel, based on, how much those 2 guys are playing in those spots, like, you only get so many chances for your backup quarterback to get in the game and to get live game reps. And Moga made a good throw on an out route to Jamari Johnson. He made a bad throw to Kyler Casper, who might just be cursed at this point. Like, I don't know what the guy has to do to get a touchdown in his career. He did catch a pass from Brock Thomas in the game, but man, he's just Kyler Casper. Every time he runs a route, he just gets grabbed, so he can't go catch a touchdown. Then he runs a good route, he's open, and Luke Moga can't quite put it on him. If he and Thomas are getting the same number of reps, I think it's pretty clear. And this shouldn't surprise anybody that Novosad's probably solidly ahead of where Moga is. If they're giving those 2 guys the same number of reps, that's just how it comes off to me. And I think that when you're talking about what Oregon has in the backup quarterback situation, again, first world problems, but it's an insurance policy. You never think about it until it's the most important thing in your life. So, I was surprised that Moga only got the chance to throw a couple of passes, and, the arm looks good. We know the mobility is there, but, has clearly taken a step forward as a passer. I think there is still another one, but Brock Thomas can also zip it a little bit. He's not, big enough to be a starting quarterback one day, I don't think, but he throws a good tight spiral and a pretty good ball. But yeah, I think overall, going forward, I will feel a lot better just about the quarterback room as a whole when Austin Novosad gets back and is out there on the field, because I think we all agree that Novosad has starting potential, and Moga does too, but he still might not quite be ready, even though he's clearly made serious progress as a passer, which is a great thing to see. So, drop your thoughts in the comments below about all of that. Moga getting the Wildcat snap made me so happy. So incredibly happy. Jordon Davison. Man, is he about to have a historic career? First, this episode brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. Football's back. It's the best time of year. Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes all in less than 60 seconds. It is indeed that simple. So if you feel like you know who's going over or who's going under because you got this sense, boy, I tell you what, Patrick Mahomes is going off today. Jalen Hurts is getting held in check. All that and more is available over there at Prize Picks every week. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 on lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 play. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. And it's good. This episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NFL season is here. Sunday was wild, crazy. Pro Ducks were shining. Dylan Gabriel threw his first touchdown pass. Bo Nix and Troy Franklin were hooking up. They just couldn't get their kicker to make a kick or their defense to get a stop or not touch the center. It was tough for those two, but overall they were shining. And right now, new customers with FanDuel can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So if you know that Oregon's going to cover 34.5 this week against Oregon State, woof. This is not a rivalry game that feels the way that it used to. That is a big number. If you think that's too many points, I'm usually take the points in a rivalry game sort of guy. I don't know about this week. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But however you feel, if you feel like you know where to be, FanDuel is the place to go. Or if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Check them out at FanDuel.com. Keep sending me all your questions, Spencer scale of agreement takes, all that great stuff. Wayne sends this one in, and the young running backs, it's hard to not like what they have done so far because, boy, Davison and Hill, thunder and lightning, man. They're just racking up touchdowns and making plays left and right. Wayne sends this one in. SSA, Jordon Davison will break Royce Freeman's career rushing touchdown record. Would require him to stay 4 years, but off to a great start with how he's fed at the goal line. So Royce Freeman ended his Oregon career with 60 rushing touchdowns. Goodness gracious, that is a lot. That is a lot of touchdowns. Now, Davison is at 4, I believe. 5. He's at 5. Okay. He's got 5 touchdowns through his first 3 games. That pace is not going to continue. The reason I'm going to put this at a 4, I can see the possibility. I think it is less likely to happen than occurring. You have to remember that Royce Freeman was Oregon's number 1 running back for several seasons. Now, when they went to the national championship game, he and Thomas Tyner split a pretty hefty number of the carries, and there were times where it felt like you wanted to give the ball to Tyner more than Royce, but not that Royce wasn't great. Of course he was. But what Davison has shown so far is what Jordan James showed in his career, and that's an ability to be a short yardage, bruising, almost fullback kind of guy. Here's an old school name for you college football fan diehards. Lendale White. That's who Jordan Davison looks like to me. He looks like Lendale White. Lendale White got a lot of short yardage carries, of course, and one most notably in the national championship game against Texas for USC. But Davison, to hit that record, I get where your head's at. He would have to become at some point Oregon's number 1 running back. Or else what he's going to miss, like he might always have, even if he stays for 4 seasons, he might always have the short yardage opportunities. And for this year, I don't think that role should go anywhere. He looks really good doing it. And clearly, Oregon's done this before with Jordan James, like Cyrus Habibi-Likio in the Mario Cristobal era. I'm here for it. I'm totally 100% here for it, and I think he should continue getting carries. He has earned that. But if you only carry the ball mostly to score touchdowns inside the 5-yard line, to set an all-time touchdown record, you are taking away the longer touchdown runs. You know, if I think long touchdown runs for Royce Freeman, I think of the Michigan State game. He had 1 or 2 that are 20, 25 yards. Davison's not going to have that chance. Do we think De'Aaron Hill's going anywhere? I don't. I got a question going into last week's game against Northwestern about De'Aaron Hill, and someone asked, I think the phraseology was specifically, is the staff going to look back and wish they'd given the ball to De'Aaron Hill more? I don't think so, especially after that game, because I think De'Aaron Hill is just going to keep getting the ball. And so Davison and Hill came in the same recruiting class. They're both seeing time early on. Barring an injury, I don't think De'Aaron Hill's role is ever going to just leave the Oregon offense. So I get the bold take, Wayne. It is definitely, I respect it. I respect it. I just don't know how Davison is going to suddenly eclipse De'Aaron Hill to where they like. I can see for the next 3 years those two guys just splitting a bunch of carries. 3 or 4 years, quite frankly. I can see them just splitting a bunch of carries. And remember, you've got Noah Whittington in the fold and being a dynamic duo in the backfield. So that would have to be removed because Royce was really, a workhorse for a good chunk of his career. And I think Oregon just has too much talent in the backfield for that to be the case. All right, this question about Dan Lanning from Tyler. This is an SSA. Dan Lanning is the best coach Oregon has ever had. Hear me out. 2 other coaches have taken Oregon to a national championship game, once in the BCS era, once in the 14 playoff. In the BCS, Lanning would have had Oregon in the national championship last year. True. Bring back the BCS before you expand the playoffs to 16 teams. I'm so not kidding about that take. Coming from the Saban and Kirby tree, Lanning has brought the trenches and toughness to Oregon while continuing to bring skilled players in like Oregon always has. While Lanning's been at the helm, the roster's never been more talented. Fact check true. The recruiting has never been better. Fact check true. And if we project in the future, this won't even be a debate in 5 years. Best coach Oregon's ever had. If he wins a national championship, he would be. Yeah. He would be. He'd have to do that, though. You can't just ignore what Chip Kelly did back in the day. And they presented a stat on the broadcast that Lanning is one of 2 coaches to start their careers as coaches with 4 straight 10-win seasons. Or there's only one other coach that's done that, and Lanning is going for that this season. The only other coach to do it, Chip Kelly. Pretty good. That guy was pretty good. So, from a recruiting standpoint, you were correct. Lanning has brought the talent level top to bottom on the roster above where it was even in the Mario era, where there was a lot of talent all over the field. We're still seeing a lot of that talent on Sundays in the NFL. Penei Sewell, Kayvon Thibodeau, the depth, I think, is greater now than it ever has been. That's showcased by the fact that Oregon just had more players drafted than they ever had before, with 10 in the 2025 NFL draft. The only the separator or differentiator that would put Lanning into best of all time, and this doesn't mean most iconic necessarily, because for a lot of the older fans out there, they're going to look at what Rich Brooks did and understand that the foundation was laid with Rich Brooks or Mike Bellotti to allow Dan Lanning to succeed. A lot of that is true, because back in the late 20th century, Oregon football is not anything like what it was today. Back then, winning 6 games would have been, holy smokes, this is amazing. What a great year. This is fun. We're going to a bowl game. Oh my gosh. The Mianiki Car Care Bowl. This is fun. Who are we playing? Virginia Tech. Whoa. It's different. It's different. If Lanning wins a national championship at Oregon, and I fully believe that he can, yeah, it's hard to not put him at the very top. It's just that you're comparing different types of great coaches. What would Rich Brooks or Mike Bellotti do in today's era? Maybe they wouldn't recruit as well and have as much talent, so they wouldn't be able to have Oregon at a playoff level year in and year out, but they'd still be good coaches. They'd still succeed. It's hard to know. It's hard to know, and comparing eras is really difficult. But I mean, yeah, if he goes out and wins a national championship, it's hard to not see, with the coaches who have had a chance to break through and didn't, and for him to be that guy and to have adapted to everything in the modern era, yeah, it's pretty hard for me to, in that hypothetical, to look at anyone else and say that's the best coach in Oregon history. Like, when Lanning has done the one thing, like what's harder to do? Getting Oregon to the place they haven't been before while coming in at a certain level of success and elevating to that level, or building that foundation entirely? Because if you're going for a foundation, a lot of people would say Rich Brooks. There's a pretty good argument for Mike Bellotti in there. And as Bellotti has pointed out many times before, everybody loves to throw praise at Chip Kelly. Like, who hired Chip Kelly? So that's a difficult conversation to have. But if Lanning gets over the top, yeah, I don't know how you could go in any other direction there. But let's keep the focus here. Let's ignore the big picture for now. Oregon State is up next. Boy, that game might not be close. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.